They called you distracted, restless, chaotic. They said you could never stay still long enough to master anything. You were the one staring out the window while everyone else took notes. The one whose mind wandered into galaxies while the world around you demanded order. They called it a weakness, a flaw to be corrected. But they never saw what was truly happening behind those eyes that refused to stop moving. You were not drifting. You were searching. Your mind was not broken. It was boundless. Where others saw a straight road and walked it faithfully, you saw infinite directions, each one alive with possibility. And that terrified them, because they only understand what they can control. You were told to slow down, to calm down, to focus. But how do you focus when the entire universe is whispering to you at once? How do you choose one thought when your mind is an orchestra? Every instrument playing in a different key, yet all somehow beautiful in their chaos. They never realized that what they called too much was your superpower. The world wants predictable minds. It wants people who move in straight lines. But you were born in spirals. You do not walk through life. You burst through it. Ideas crash inside you like thunder. Emotions strike like lightning. You feel everything too much, think too much, dream too much. And that is exactly why you are dangerous. Because chaos is not your curse, it is your forge. The storms inside you are not meant to be silenced. They are meant to be steered. While others build fences to protect their comfort, you burn them down to find truth. You are not broken, you are becoming. They think you lack attention, but the truth is you give attention like a weapon. When something captures your soul, you lock in like a missile. Nothing can pull you away. You may drift, but when it matters you descend. Deep, fierce, relentless. And in that moment, you see what no ordinary mind can see, because your mind does not walk the path of logic. It flies through the corridors of creativity. It connects dots others do not even know exist. It turns boredom into invention, distraction into discovery, impulse into impact. Yes, you fall. Yes, you forget. Yes, you start more than you finish. But the few things you do finish, they change everything. The world's greatest disruptors were all accused of being unfocused, until their distraction became destiny. Einstein daydreamed through school. Da Vinci left projects unfinished. Jobs was called erratic. Musk obsessive. But what they all shared was not disorder. It was different order. The world sees a storm, but you are the storm and the calm that follows. So let them laugh when you lose your keys or forget your schedule. Let them misunderstand your silence, your hyperfocus, your restless heart, because one day they will see that while they were memorizing rules, you were building a world that had none. You are not here to fit the system. You are here to redesign it. You are not here to slow down. You are here to set the pace. And soon they will realize the mind they tried to tame was never meant to obey. It was meant to lead. You spent years trying to silence your mind, forcing it into cages built for others, schedules, deadlines, rules. They told you that structure equals success. So you tried. You broke yourself into smaller pieces, tried to fit the mold. But each time you did, your light dimmed a little more. You thought your inability to stay consistent was failure. You thought your mind was rebelling against discipline, but it was never rebellion. It was instinct. You were never meant to walk someone else's straight path. You were meant to carve your own. One wild and alive with energy. The truth hit you quietly, didn't it? That your brain was not scattered. It was scanning, always searching, always noticing, always sensing the pulse beneath everything. You see patterns before they exist. You hear possibilities in silence. You feel ideas like electricity crawling under your skin, while others follow instructions. You invent shortcuts. While they repeat, you recreate. You were never made for monotony. Your soul hungers for motion. Your dopamine is not broken. It is strategic. It only rewards what truly matters to you. It punishes the meaningless. That is not a flaw. That is precision. You begin to realize you were never lazy, only unchallenged, never disorganized, only uninterested in small cages. You were never unmotivated. You were unignited, and the moment you found a spark, you burned through limitations like wildfire. That is the revelation. The world calls you impulsive, but your impulsivity is intuition in motion. When you act with your entire being. You leap before others even notice the edge. You take risks because safety feels like death to a soul that craves meaning. You live with intensity, not because you choose to, but because you cannot live any other way. They told you that focus is about narrowing your vision. But for you, focus is expansion. It is the moment your scattered thoughts merge into a single beam of creation. That instant when time dissolves and the world vanishes and you are one with what you are building. It is not concentration. It is communion. You are not disordered. You are divergent. Your chaos is the language of creation. Your speed is your survival. Your intensity is your art. Once you stop apologizing for the way you think, the world shifts. The noise becomes rhythm. The mess becomes a map. The very storm that once drowned you becomes the wind beneath your rise. You do not need to be calmer. You need to be channeled. You do not need less emotion. You need direction. You do not need to fix your brain. You need to understand it, because when you finally stop fighting yourself, you unlock the gate to something few ever touch, limitless awareness. You begin to see that your distractions are not pulling you away. They are pulling you through boredom, through fear, through the illusion of limits. Every unfinished idea was not failure. It was training. Every chaotic project, every restless night, every burst of obsession, it was your mind learning to fly. The revelation is simple. You were never meant to walk in straight lines. You were meant to dance through dimensions, to think sideways, to dream vertically, to move through life like lightning. Unpredictable, untamable. And when the world asks, why can't you be like everyone else? You will finally answer, because everyone else is asleep. You once believed you were behind in school, behind in life, behind in becoming what they expected. Every forgotten appointment, every missed detail, every chaotic pile on your desk whispered the same lie. You are not enough. You tried hard. You bought planners, made schedules, downloaded productivity apps, filled notebooks with color-coded dreams, and for a while it worked, until it didn't. Because no matter how tightly you gripped control, your mind would always slip away, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. The trap was never your distraction. It was your self-hatred. It was believing that the way you are built is wrong, that you needed to earn permission to exist in your own rhythm. But here is the truth. You were never meant to be efficient. You were meant to be extraordinary. The world measures worth by output, but you measure it by meaning. They can sit for hours doing tasks they hate. You cannot, because your spirit refuses to die for convenience. They call it inconsistency, but your inconsistency is truth in motion. Your energy follows alignment, not authority, and that is what makes you unstoppable. Once you find what sets your soul on fire, you have lived most of your life fighting two battles: the battle with your environment, loud, rigid, predictable, and the battle within, the endless storm of thoughts that never lets you rest. But what if the second battle was never meant to be won, only understood? Your mind does not stop because it is broken. It does not rest because it is alive. It hungers for meaning like lungs, hunger for air, and every distraction you curse is simply your spirit searching for oxygen. You are not lazy. You are exhausted from pretending to be normal. You are not careless. You are overwhelmed by 1,000 possibilities. You are not unmotivated. You are under-inspired. The real prison is not your brain, it is comparison. You keep measuring your storm against their silence. You keep asking why you cannot walk when you were born to fly through hurricanes. And here lies the truth they never told you. ADHD is not a deficit of attention. It is a surplus of awareness. You see more, feel more, imagine more, and that flood of perception can drown you if you do not learn to steer it. But when you do, when you learn to ride the current instead of resisting it, you become something else entirely, a force of creation. Yes, you fail. Yes, your mind races faster than your mouth can speak. But that very chaos, that endless surge is the birthplace of genius. Every breakthrough in history began with someone who could not sit still. You were told to calm down. But you were never meant to calm down. You were meant to wake the world up. The trap was believing that peace comes from stillness. The truth is your peace comes from flow, from movement, from momentum, from immersion in something that consumes you. That is when your storm quiets. Not because it ends, but because it finally finds direction. So stop apologizing for the way you think. Stop asking permission to move at your own speed. Stop measuring your progress in straight lines when you are building constellations. You are not behind. You are simply becoming visible on your own timeline. And the ones who once doubted you will one day realize you were never lost. You were just traveling faster than they could comprehend. There comes a day when you stop waiting for understanding, a day when you stop asking the world to translate your language. You look at yourself, wild mind, sleepless energy, heart full of sparks, and you whisper, "This is not a flaw, this is my design." That is the awakening. The moment you stop trying to silence your storm and start learning how to sail it, the moment you realize your restlessness is not chaos, it is calling. You were never meant to sit still. You were meant to move mountains. You begin to feel it, don't you? That low hum beneath your ribs. The pulse of potential that never leaves you. It is the rhythm of a soul that refuses to die in routine. You start seeing the truth. The same brain that forgets the obvious remembers the impossible. The same energy that can't handle boredom can build empires when it finds purpose. You begin to reframe every part of you that they once labeled wrong. Forgetful? No. You are too busy imagining the future to live in the past. Impulsive? No. You are brave enough to move when others hesitate. Unfocused? No. You are preattuned to the frequency of what matters. Every weakness was never weakness. It was misinterpreted genius. The awakening is not gentle. It is a storm in reverse. Every belief that you are broken starts to crumble. Every apology you ever made for being too much begins to rot in the soil of yesterday. You stop shrinking to fit rooms that cannot hold your fire. You stop lowering your voice to protect fragile egos. You stop waiting for the perfect system and start creating your own rhythm. You realize discipline is not routine. It is alignment. It is not waking up at 5 a.m. because others do. It is staying up until 3 a.m. because your idea just caught fire. It is working in waves, bursts of lightning followed by deep silence, because that is how your mind breathes. You stop measuring yourself by calendars and clocks. You measure by creation, by the depth of what you build when your focus catches flame, by the clarity that comes in chaos, by the beauty born from disorder, because when your storm is channeled, it becomes a jet engine. It propels you forward faster than logic can follow, and that is when mastery begins. When you no longer try to control your mind but collaborate with it, you begin to build systems that serve your rhythm, not fight it. You design your environment like a symphony. Reminders, cues, momentum loop.
You learn how to protect your energy from small things so you can pour it into the big ones. You treat focus not as a chore but as sacred currents.
Every spark becomes fuel. Every distraction becomes a signpost. You stop punishing yourself for an inconsistency, because now you understand the tide. The awakening is not about becoming someone new. It is about remembering who you were before the world convinced you to forget. The child who could not stop asking questions. The dreamer who built galaxies out of boredom. The soul that burned too bright to be ordinary. You remember you were never behind. You were building momentum. You were collecting chaos to forge clarity. And now the world that once called you too much will watch as you become unstoppable. They will wonder how you do it, how the one they once labeled unstable became a pillar of innovation. They will not understand that your strength was never in control, it was in conversion. You learned to turn chaos into creation, confusion into clarity, and restlessness into revolution. This is the beginning of your second life. The one where your storm no longer destroys you, it drives you, and from this moment forward you do not hide the fire, you walk with it. Now you stand at the edge of everything you once feared, the noise, the rush, the endless movement. It no longer feels like chaos, it feels like music. Every thought that once crashed against you now dances with rhythm. Every emotion that once drowned you now flows like fire through your veins. You are no longer surviving your mind, you are conducting it. This is where power begins. Not in control but in communion. You and your mind. No longer enemies but allies. You understand its storms, its hunger, its lightning speed connection. You understand that stillness is not the goal. Alignment is. That your restlessness is not a curse. It is a compass, pointing you toward your mission. You begin to master it. To channel the flood into focus. To turn sparks into systems. To build rituals around energy, not around shame. You no longer force yourself into schedules that suffocate your soul. You build your own, wild, alive, effective. You design your days like an artist designs his masterpiece, with movement, space, and ignition. And with mastery comes something deeper, peace. Not the peace of silence, but the peace of purpose. The peace that comes when every cell in your body knows why it exists. When your mind is no longer trying to escape life, it is creating it. You stop chasing balance, because balance was never your language. You were built for rhythm. You thrive in motion, in pulses, in waves. Some days you burn like the sun, other days you retreat like the moon. And both are beautiful, because your genius lives not in constancy but in cycles. Now your focus sharpens like a blade. Your impulses turn into intuition. Your emotions become your power source. You no longer see them as enemies but as guides, each one carrying a message, each one pointing toward truth. You stop hiding your fire behind filters of calm. You let the world see it unfiltered, unapologetic, untamed. Because the world does not need another calm mind. It needs visionaries who move like lightning. It needs creators who think too fast, feel too deep, dream too big. It needs you, and as you rise, something miraculous happens. You begin to build beyond yourself. You use your fire to ignite others. You start teaching them that energy is not disorder. It is destiny waiting for direction. You build, mentor, inspire, lead. You become the proof that chaos can create kingdom. You realize the legacy of your mind is not just what you build. It is what you awaken. Because the ones who once felt like misfits will see themselves in your light. They will say, if they can rise with a storm in their head, maybe my storm is not a curse either. And that is when you understand this was never about ADHD. It was always about awakening, about turning what the world rejected into what the world remembers.
the final truth emerges. You were never meant to calm the storm. You were meant to become the eye within it, still in focus, unstoppable in motion. You were meant to live wide awake, to burn, to build, to belong nowhere and everywhere at once. You were meant to think like 1,000 minds and create like 10 lifetimes. So let them talk, let them label, let them measure. While they define, you design. While they plan, you move. While they doubt, you do. Because you are not the scattered one. You are the storm that reshapes the world. And your mind, this beautiful, relentless, restless mind, is not your burden. It is your birthright. Now rise. The world is waiting for what only you can build. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not disorder. You are divine design in motion. And the noise in your head, that is not chaos. That is the sound of creation. You were never meant to quiet it. You were meant to turn it into thunder. Now rise.